Hey, what's going on everyone? Beau HD here from PhoneDog.com. Now the OnePlus 7 Pro is finally in our hands thanks to our buddies over at T-Mobile. So big shout out to T-Mobile for sending over the OnePlus 7 Pro. By now you've probably seen an unboxing or a review or two, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you my first impressions without boring you with a ton of spec details that you are probably already familiar with. Now, I switched to the OnePlus 7 Pro from the Pixel 3a XL, which I think is one of the 7 Pro's top competitors, just given its appealing price to spec ratio. For those of you who have budgeted to spend around $700 or a couple $100 more than the Pixel 3a XL, you have a more polished, a more spec'd out phone to consider. The one thing that stood out to me the most upon switching SIM cards to the OnePlus 7 Pro was the speed. I've always loved how smooth stock Android is compared to most Android phones, but what OnePlus phones have always done to me is provide evidence that smoothness is not necessarily the same thing as quickness. They often go hand in hand, but they're not the same thing. The 7 Pro is 100% noticeably quicker than the Pixel 3a. Apps open up faster, and there's less of an animation when doing just about anything. Everything is just about instant. Now, it seems like OnePlus simply just turned down the animation scale for its windows and transitions, but after going into the developer options, it's still at 1x, which is standard for most devices. You can actually crank it up so that there's no animation at all, which will make things look even faster. With that said, if you do start messing around with some of these settings, things will appear more choppy and less smooth. And I really do value smoothness as well as quickness, so I just like to keep things as is. Another really cool feature is the pop-out 16 megapixel front-facing camera sensor. It's the #1 feature I show my friends and family, as it's the first phone to launch in the US with a pop-out camera. It's not a feature that's really common, so it definitely surprises a lot of people. There's just something neat about seeing and trying to visualize the machinery and moving parts inside this phone needed to make this pop-out camera work, even if it means that it's probably gonna be the first thing to fail after long usage. It's still pretty cool. I'm actually kind of torn between using Face Unlock, as it's really cool to see this camera sensor just pop out of the top of the phone, but knowing I unlock my phone probably hundreds of times a day, this camera motor would get a lot of usage. Also, one thing I haven't really heard discussed too much in the tech industry is the privacy standpoint. Since the front-facing camera is hidden, it's inside the phone, you shouldn't have to worry too much about privacy, as you know when the camera is looking at you because you physically have to eject it from the phone. It's not always looking at you, so if your phone gets hacked or something, at least you don't have to worry about a hacker looking at you, spying at you, which is kind of cool, I guess. Also special about this phone is the premium build quality. Right away, it screams quality, and it just feels way better than the Pixel 3a. It feels more dense and expensive, as it uses more premium materials like metal and glass, not plastic. I like how traditionally exposed components like the front-facing camera sensor and the fingerprint scanner are now hidden and inside the phone. The fingerprint scanner is embedded behind the display, and it works quicker to unlock the phone than the 6T. I'm not entirely sold on these in-display fingerprint scanners, but this one does work pretty well. Haven't had any issues, nowhere near as many issues as the Galaxy S10. The display also really has a curve to it. I thought that just the glass on the front would be curved, but no, the edges of the actual panel are curved just like the Galaxy S10. There doesn't seem to be as much of a curve, so you shouldn't worry about accidentally touching the screen when holding the phone, but I think it helps make the display more beautiful. I mean, most of the reason why the display is so beautiful has to do with the display itself, which is a big OLED panel with a 90 Hz refresh rate that makes content appear more smooth and lifelike. Scrolling is noticeably smoother than on other phones. Colors are nice and vibrant, and there are more pixels than last year's OnePlus 6T. There's also obviously no notch because the front-facing camera is hidden inside the phone. You basically get one big display and a smidge of bezel. That's about it. Yet another area that is noticeably better than the Pixel 3a. The stereo speakers are also greatly appreciated. I especially like the elongated call speaker on the front of the phone. I don't know why, I just like this design. It's pretty sleek. I like it. And the physical notification slider takes some time getting used to, coming from other phones with these physical sliders, but it's nice to have, and it's nice to see OnePlus continue to carry over this slider. I know a lot of diehard OnePlus fans really, really love this physical slider. Heck, even Apple fans love this slider. If you're coming from an iPhone, you'll feel right at home. The two areas that will have a tougher time competing with the cheaper Pixel 3a are the cameras and the battery life. On paper, the 7 Pro is stacked with a 48 megapixel main camera sensor with an f1.6 aperture and accompanying 8 megapixel telephoto and 16 megapixel ultra wide sensor. I just love having the wide angle sensor to play around with, something the Pixel 3a doesn't offer, but Google does a much better job processing images via its software. That image quality captured with the 12 megapixel pixel sensor are often superior than most phones, including the 7 Pro. I'm definitely going to have to spend more time with the cameras to get a better feel for how they perform before I make any final judgments. Same with the 4,000 milliamp hour battery. It should outperform the 3A's 3,700 milliamp hour battery and last a full day of moderate to heavy usage, but there's also a more powerful processor and more pixel dense display that it has to work with. Upon first impressions, battery life is solid, but it's nothing too exceptional, at least on day 2 of using this phone, which isn't saying too much. Now, I've made a lot of references to the Pixel 3a, but this is not a comparison video. It's just that when I think of two of the best phones for the money, I think of the OnePlus 7 Pro and the Google Pixel 3a. It's tough to say which features are worth spending more for, and that's something I'm gonna have to figure out for our dedicated comparison video. But the OnePlus 7 Pro, it offers a heck of a lot more for a price that seriously undercuts the flagships like the iPhone XS and Galaxy S10. Price aside, this is a powerful, extremely capable phone that should make for a great daily driver. I'm looking forward to using this phone over the next couple of weeks to get a better feel for how it stacks up to the competition. With that said, let me know what your thoughts are of the OnePlus 7 Pro in a comment down below. As always, I'm Beau HD from PhoneDog.com. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you right back here in the next one. See ya.